But I'm just going to hang in here with the Middle East coverage because it's all quasi-related. There was an official release today of the text of the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran. A U.S. government official released the actual complete text. And I have it reproduced on my website, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Now, it's wordy, and I don't have a tremendous amount of time. But let me just read you some relevant aspects to this, okay? The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war, by signing this MOU, declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or any military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions of this paragraph. So, the United States has signed this, has agreed to this. And it very clearly says the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war. Well, that's Israel. Now, there's a blah, blah, blah about the U.S. and Iran will undertake to respect each other's sovereignty, refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs, commit to negotiating and achieving a final deal in maximum 60 days, extendable with mutual consent. Immediately upon the signing of this MOU, the United States will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against Iran, and will fully end the naval blockade within 30 days. During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by Iran. The U.S. further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. We have agreed to this. So what are our forces in proximity to Iran? Are we going to close all our Middle Eastern bases? This seems to indicate that that's exactly what we're going to do, but what does proximity mean? Moving along, upon the signing of this, Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days only from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa. The traffic of commercial vessels will immediately start, and considering the need for removing the technical and military obstacles and demining by Iran, this will be instated within 30 days. Iran will conduct dialogue with Oman to define the future administration of maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz. United States will undertake with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of Iran. The United States undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against Iran. They agree to discuss the issue of enrichment and other matters related to the nuclear needs. Blah, 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 blah. So this was the agreed text. More on this when I get back in 1 minute. 6, Hal Turner back with you. This afternoon, we were all under the impression that the United States and Iran would meet on Friday this week in Geneva, Switzerland, for a signing ceremony, right? Came out about midday today, quote, due to the lack of agreement on ending the aggression in Lebanon, it has been decided to stop signing the agreement with the American side in Geneva. The Iranian delegation will not go to Geneva, unquote. And that was reported by the Iran news agency. That caused big trouble. That caused really big trouble between the United States and Israel. Like really, really big trouble. And at 5:30 p.m. tonight, Eastern U.S. time, that's the time here in New York City, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Bagay, released a statement. He said, quote, right now, as I'm speaking with you, the text of the Islamabad memorandum has probably reached the presidents of Iran and the United States for signature. It has been agreed that the Iran-U.S. memorandum will be signed digitally. Once the memorandum reaches the presidents of both countries for signature, any violation of it will carry a higher cost. Up to this moment, there had been plans for the negotiating teams to attend in Geneva or Brussels, but the signing of the memorandum will be done digitally and no signing ceremony will be held in Switzerland, unquote. Well, this raised eyebrows. What's going on that the Iranians aren't going to go to Geneva? Switzerland is a neutral country. What's going on? Well, a number of things are going on. But the really big deal? Iran this afternoon, as the spokesman was saying what I just read to you, Iran suddenly cleared its airspace of commercial air traffic. And sources on the ground inside Iran told me that all domestic flights in Iran have been suddenly canceled. And this came as the Iranian leadership began signaling that the ceasefire is broken. And all of a sudden, there was talk of retaliation because Israel continues to strike Lebanon. Then there was an announcement from the Qatam al-Anbiya central headquarters. And apparently this is a legitimate military source of news and information from inside Iran. The announcement said, quote, the Zionist regime has violated the ceasefire in southern Lebanon 84 times over the past 2 days. following the U.S. president's announcement of the end of the war and continues its crimes and killings in Lebanon, unquote. That was at 4:59 this afternoon, right at the same time, or just before, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman said it'll be signed digitally. There won't be a signing ceremony. So, this doesn't look good, right? I mean, this afternoon, things are looking pretty good. They're going to sign on Friday. The two sides seem to have hammered things out. And all of a sudden, Iran is saying the Zionist regime violated the ceasefire in Lebanon 84 times over the past 2 days. And then all of a sudden, Iran is clearing its airspace. Uh-oh, right? Because any rational person is saying Iran is probably going to start launching missiles, right? That's why they would clear their airspace. Not like they have an air force left that they're going to take to the skies and do battle with. They do have some military aircraft, but not enough. So the clearing of the airspace was a big deal. And whatever they did worked it out behind the scenes that the signing is going to be done digitally. Well, that was kind of good, but the Israelis won't stop. Then I was digging as to why the Iranians wouldn't want to go to Geneva. I mean, all right, fine. The Israelis have done what they've done over the past few days. Being face-to-face in Geneva would be a great place to really discuss that. But they're not going to Geneva. Why? Well, I found out. How many of you are familiar with the Jewish Sanhedrin? The Sanhedrin was, throughout history, the supreme Jewish legislative and judicial council in ancient Israel. Way back when, around the time of Jesus, it was composed of 71 leading sages and presided over by a, ready for this? Nazi. N-A-S-I. That's the word. Nazi. And in parentheses, president. Oy vey, they know we use Nazi here in Israel. Oh, my God. Turner, you can't say that. Oh, sorry. Go back in your closet. Get out of here. Okay, so anyway. The Sanhedrin functioned as the highest court of appeal. It held jurisdiction over religious law, civil disputes, and matters of national importance. But it was dissolved in the 5th century. The council originated from the Torah, where God commanded Moses to gather 70 elders to assist in leading the Israelites. And you can read that in the Bible, book of Numbers 11:16. Then there was the Great Sanhedrin during the Second Temple period, circa 516 BC to 70 AD. It served as the Supreme Council and sat in the chamber of hewn stone, Lishkat Hagazit, within the temple complex in Jerusalem. Then there was the Roman era. And all of you are probably familiar with the Sanhedrin because of what happened in the Roman era, because the council is prominently featured in the New Testament for its involvement in the trials of Jesus and the early apostles. They were the ones who said, Turn him over to Pontius Pilate. Crucify him. That was the Sanhedrin. That tells you what kind of people they are, huh? Right? But I don't want to go off on a tangent. This is important, I got to tell you. Then there was the dissolution. Following the destruction of the Second Temple, the Sanhedrin was forced to relocate multiple times throughout the Galilee region before its final disbandment around 425 AD due to severe Roman persecution. Now, while the ancient institution no longer holds legal authority, its foundational framework remains the basis for the modern Beit Din, rabbinical courts that handle Jewish civil and religious law. Throughout history, there have been attempts to revive the council, most notably the Grand Sanhedrin, convened by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1807 to integrate French Jews into the state, though it was not a continuation of the ancient religious court. I don't want to go off on that tangent either. Today, there is the Israeli National Rabbinate. And when Israel got the copy of the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran, they brought the text to the rabbinate. And the rabbinate ruled that the agreement between the United States and Iran is another HaMans Pact. HaMans Pact. I thought to myself, what is HaMans Pact? I'd never heard of this. I looked it up. In the Bible, HaMans Pact refers to the genocidal decree engineered by Haman, the Agagite, who was the vizier of the Persian king Xerxes. Haman was outraged that a Jewish man, Mordecai, refused to bow to him. So Haman bribed the Persian king with 10,000 talents of silver to legally exterminate all Jewish people in the Persian Empire. Now, Haman cast lots. Nope, this break is going to have to wait. Haman cast lots, Purim, to determine the most auspicious day for this destruction. And the lot fell on the 13th day of the month of Adar. And then the decree came out, sealed with the king's signet ring. The edict ordered citizens throughout all 127 provinces of Persia to, quote, destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, and to plunder their goods, unquote. Now, Haman also offered to fill the royal treasury with silver to compensate for the loss of Jewish tax revenue, which secured King Xerxes' apathy toward the slaughter. Well, Enter Queen Esther, who, by the way, was secretly Jewish. Somehow she learned of the plot, and she risked her life by approaching King Xerxes uninvited to reveal Haman's treachery. But there was a problem. Persian law could not be revoked. So because Persian law could not be revoked, King Xerxes issued a counter decree allowing the Jewish people to arm and defend themselves on the exact day Haman's forces were to attack. And what was Haman's fate? Haman was hanged on the 50-cubit-high gallows that he had specifically built to execute Mordecai. And this historic deliverance of the Jewish people in Persia is celebrated annually by the Jewish holiday of Purim. Well, the National Rabbinate folks in Israel declared the agreement between the United States and Iran as another HaMans Pact, which would lead to the Ezekiel War, which would destroy all of Israel. And that is the reason there isn't going to be a signing ceremony. Because what happened to Haman? He was hanged on a 50-cubit high gallows that he had specifically built to execute Mordecai. And the Iranian foreign minister and the Speaker of the Parliament and the United States Secret Service protecting the President of the United States and the Vice President interpreted this ruling out of Israel according to what happened historically before. And since Haman initiated the pact to destroy the Jews and was himself killed, the security forces determined that it was not safe to have this signing ceremony, because with this declaration by Israel that the U.S.-Iran agreement is another HaMans Pact, there was a very realistic and credible belief that something would happen at the signing ceremony to kill the representatives from the United States and from Iran. And that is why the signing has been done digitally. Jewish religious authorities in Israel declared the U.S.-Iran agreement, the Memorandum of Understanding, as another HaMans Pact, which will lead to the Ezekiel 38 war, which would destroy Israel, etc., 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 and Israel was not to abide by the terms of this thing. All this stuff, folks, happened today. Yeah. It all happened today. It's been a busy day. Now, there's more news. And I'm going to... I'm going to put on a shit-eating grin here for a second. Because for weeks, I have warned all of the readers of my website and all of you in my radio audience. I have warned over and over and over and over again what ZeroHedge.com reported at 10:49 a.m. Eastern U.S. time today. Zero Hedge posted on social media, quote, well, there it is, Cushing at tank bottoms. And below that text, unquote, below that text is the United States Department of Energy, Cushing, Oklahoma, crude oil total stock data showing the Cushing total stocks, the reserves at Cushing, have reached 20,034,000 barrels. That's it, folks. They are now below operational floor.